Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to Vive Check, your favorite patch notes rundown show that, I want to make this clear, claimed the name Vive Check before anyone else hosting perhaps another SUPERVIVE-based podcast did. Anyways, if you're new here, Vive Check is your best and only source for in-depth patch note discussion going into the next month of SUPERVIVE playtests. We're a few days out from the... I never know whether to call it the July or the August playtest because it's happening on like the first few days of August, but sometimes people call it the July playtest. So we'll go with the August playtest. My name is Steven Ader, and I'm joined here with my good friend and current teammate Luke. How are you, Luke?
I'm feeling pretty good as we go into Joggist. It's one of my favorite, mid-months. Normally the weather's terrible, and my AC is on full blast all the time.
Joggist. I love it. I say current teammate Luke, but in reality, we won't be spending very much of this playtest together. We'll be playing 2 show matches and a tournament together, and aside from that, we're going our separate ways as you introduce your new friends who have never played SUPERVIVE to the game, who are coming from League of Legends, which I hope you have lots of fun with.
They're League players, so it's going to go terribly.
Anything with League players.
Yep.
All right. With that said and done, we've got a huge list of patch notes, as you can see as I scroll down them on screen right now, which means that we're going to be rolling through stuff pretty quickly. Feel free to shout out. We're actually recording this live on Twitch right now, so anybody in the chat, if you want to shout out parts that you want us to specifically spend a bit more time on, feel free to do that. But aside from that, we are just going to be rolling from the top, starting with the cosmetics update to this test.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see, because I think the starter skins for video games are always like they're the ones that are sort of more recolors, but it seems that SUPERVIVE is introducing some things that aren't just recolors too.
Yeah, they've got like variations, kind of like chromas from League, and then they also have like some unique animations for if you upgrade the skin, kind of like Valorant style, which I think is a really cool skin model where like if you just like how the skin looks, you can buy just the skin. But if you want it to have extra animations and stuff, then you can pay a little extra on that track.
Yep.
I'm excited about this because I'm a skin addict. I've spent like over $1,000 over my 13 years playing League of Legends. And when I played Brawlhalla professionally, I had more pages of bot skins than unbought skins.
Well, Steve, I just want to remind you that they're using this as a test. So only buy the skins you really want, because, that's going to tell them and inform them on what skins they have in the game.
I see. So don't waste all of my money on Wisp skins that I won't use.
Yes.
I'm thinking that I'm going to buy the KP skin for sure, and if there's a skin for Jewel, which we haven't seen any yet, but I'm hoping there is, then I'll buy one for Jewel. Outside of that, I'm going to be stingy with my currency. Not that it really matters, because keep in mind that this currency that they're giving us to spend is $40 worth, but it's all temporary, and it'll be reset at the end of the patch, starting next patch. So it's fake money. It's Monopoly money.
Just spend it on what you want.
All right. Hopping into the controls next. We got some controls changes. Luke, you want to talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, I think the control changes will be... I think it's going to be a little bit more accessible for new players. I think it's going to be more natural for players that are learning the game. But for players that have already learned the game and are pretty attached to their keybinds, Quiff included a way to save it, and I'd highly suggest doing that just because you probably don't want to adapt your key bindings while you're also trying to adapt hero changes. I think it's sometimes, you're kind of stuck with it now.
But Luke, you can have your ability on cue. It's just like League of Legends. Shouldn't you like this as a long-time League of Legends player?
Yeah, but I'm also already attached to what I got. It's muscle memory. Yeah. The last time they did this, it actually took me 2 tests to feel confident that I was actually pressing Kingpin Slam and not Kingpin Pull. It was rough, man.
Yeah. I'd imagine most people who have been playing in past playtests are probably just going to stick with what they got. So follow the instructions that Quiff gave to actually keep your settings. I, of course, will not be doing that because, I'm lazy and I'm also technologically challenged. So when Quiff tells me to go into my users app data local SUPERVIVE and copy and paste some stuff, I'm like, that already sounds like too much for me. So I'm probably just going to rechange my keybinds by hand, and it'll also be an interesting point for me to realize what keybinds I've actually changed. Because off the top of my head, I don't know how many keybinds I've actually changed or which ones are different from the default. Which, when making guides and tutorials, I feel like it would be good for me to know what's actually the default. The last thing I want to call to attention in the controls is that you can now double tap your interact key, which is now going to be E if you played prior tests. That's going to be F, I believe, on a death box to auto loot all items, which I think is like awesome. Because I'm a big mid-fight looter. Like, loot the 100% armor off the guy after you're at 0% armor. Loot the food mid-fight so that you can use it. Loot some really good powers and then use them immediately mid-fight. Like, I think that's really important, and it's something that I love doing. But it's really hard when I have to press the interact button and then also maneuver my mouse cursor to smart loot as fast as possible.
Yeah, on that point, I'm just going to piggyback it, unrelated to controls. But if you're dying and Steve's about to loot your Wisp, and he's coming for your death box, go into your inventory and drag your armor out when it's at 0%, and that's really going to ruin his day, because that armor stays at 0% when you drop it as a Wisp.
That's the hidden technology. Doctors hate him.
Yep.
For knowing that one. I'm excited to troll our teammate Flappy even more by smart looting absolutely everything before he gets a chance to grab his mana blade, though. That's going to be lots of fun. I'm a complete loot goblin in this game, and I'm not afraid to admit it. All right, Crosshair customization. This is pretty cool. Not too much to say on it. I mean, it's all more visual clarity and more options for customization is always good in my eyes. I swear that the concept of having ability info, like the pips to indicate how many Yash charges you have and ability cooldowns, comes from a different game. Do you know what game this is, though?
I feel like it's a lot of games.
Okay, because I know that there are other similar games that already do this, and when I first saw it, it seemed really cool, but I couldn't remember what game it was that did this. Does Battlerite do it, or no?
No.
Okay, Battlerite doesn't do it. It might have been BapBap, to be honest. I'm not 100% sure, but I do know that there are other games that have been doing this so that, like, you don't have to constantly look back at your hotbar to know what cooldowns you have left, and I think it's cool. It's a cool visual way of communicating more information. I'm wondering what kind of horrid crosshairs might pop up, by the way.
I don't know. I feel like this is actually a pretty good mechanic to add for like mid-range players that aren't making SUPERVIVE their life but still like the game. And this is going to give them a lot more. This is going to give them a better tool for accessing the game and playing it consistently, where they don't actually have that feel for what the cooldown is. Yeah, so it's good for them. I like it.
Good for new players, might be good for experienced players. I don't really see any drawbacks, so we like it. Similarly, we got some UI updates. It's kind of always hard to talk about UI updates before the patches come because, like, it's all visual, so it's hard to tell whether we'll like it or not before we see it, especially when some of the tooltips are like, menus have been updated. We don't know what that's going to look like. But you did want to talk about one specific thing in here, so I'll let you go for that.
I really like the respawn beacon. The way that I'm reading this is that on the edge of your screen, it's like the off-screen pings in League of Legends. The way that I'm reading it is it's going to show just off-screen what the respawn beacon percentage is at. And before, I'd have to constantly tab in with the map and see how it was doing, if I was going to make it on time, etc., etc. So I like this. It's information that I clearly wanted, and now I have an easier way to get it.
Yeah, you don't want to have to press tab when you're about to engage into a fight or you're maneuvering over the abyss or something.
Yeah, it's a good shade.
So, yeah. All right, moving on to map and objectives. I'd say this is the first, like, major pillar of this patch, it seems like. This is one of the things that they want to explore a lot more in this patch as opposed to prior patches. So starting off, we have soul bosses no longer just spawn on the map with a countdown. Instead, at night, soul meteors will spawn, streaking across the sky and spawning a soul boss where they impact. Think supply plane, but instead of presents, it drops monster. So what is your interpretation of this patch note?
I honestly can't tell, because there's a whole section, and we're going to get to it, on VFX changes. There's art updates, and I can't tell if this is an art update. Like, is it still going to spawn in the exact same way, like just with a new VFX, or is there a gameplay mechanic that this changes? I was looking in the Fireside chat to see if I could see anything in the background footage, and I couldn't. So it's hard to say. Like, it really depends if there's a gameplay mechanic here that's going to meaningfully change how bosses work, or if it's just a VFX change.
Yeah, I want standing directly under the meteor crashes down to just insta-kill you, like in Apex when you stand under a care package. Like, I think if you're standing on top of where the soul meteor is going to crash down and spawn a massive-ass boss on it, you should definitely just die for that. I think that would be hilarious.
This is just going to create a whole new category of, like, died to train as, like...
air blast someone into the soul meteor and one-hit kill them?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I hope so. I hope so. But we'll see. It might just be a Vive exchange.
Yep.
More choke points is really, really interesting, actually. So, and it seemed like this was something that they were really passionate about. They covered it in the Fireside chat, and they say specifically a lot of new choke points have been introduced. Pay attention to your pathing, which makes me think that this is a pretty major goal for them, this patch.
Yep.
I asked for this a while ago because I felt like it was really hard to hold space in this game because you can always just get approached from a bunch of different angles. And I think that that'll still be true for the really, really good teams who are able to find flank angles consistently. But I do think that at a baseline level, this is going to make some hunters stronger and some hunters weaker, just automatically by map design.
Yep. It's going to be interesting. I think there's a lot of heroes that are jumping to my mind on, like, this is probably a positive change. And, like, I can't say for certain because the only ones we only saw, I think, 3 or 4 examples on the Fireside chat. But from looking at all of those examples, Gunner really jumped out on my mind as, like, this character is a lot stronger now because all those entries looked just about the same size as Gunner's R&B. And I think that pick could boil up as players, understand the terrible burden they are putting on themselves holding down LMB on Gunner to attain the success of being able to put a circle that grounds people at an entrance in these chokes. So it'll be interesting to see how this actually shakes up and how, like, widespread on the map it is, because it could actually have a pretty meaningful impact in fights on power strength.
And my mind goes to, like, Myth Hail of Arrows is going to be really hard to walk through with smaller chokes, with smaller, more defined chokes. Voids, whatever it's called, his little thing that he can put down and then activate manually, that's going to be really hard to walk through. It's going to be impossible to walk into a Celeste, basically.
Like, what about Void LMB? Like, if he's got all these chokes he can kite you around, and he's going to be pretty fun.
Yeah. So I think, like, on the surface level, this doesn't inherently be like a buff or a nerf, but I do think that changing the way that choke points function is going to benefit some characters more than others for sure, and especially controllers in my mind.
Yeah.
We've also got some changes to beacons. You want to cover these?
Yeah, I think the thing that really stood out to me to beacons is they look like they're more defensible, but on the other side, that makes them really assailable by AoE. Spells and powers and characters. So I'm not even sure, like, I think while this could be seen as, like, you're making it so you can, set up a defense for your beacon better, you also might be putting yourself in a worse position because you could just get nuked off of it and not have an escape. You could get the void puddle. It's a lot of danger associated with it, so I'm not really sure on how this is going to shake out. It's going to change the way you have to play around beacons, though.
Yeah, it means that beacons are far more committal, right? And also that running to chase someone who's rezzing on a beacon becomes a lot more viable. Because before, what it would be is if someone's stepping on a beacon, they're probably just playing opposite side of you. And as soon as they see any sort of movement on their screen, they're just going to use all their dash abilities in the opposite direction and be gone before you can punish them, right?
Yeah, you're mostly just keeping them off the beacon.
But if beacons are now in these enclosed areas that are, in theory, more fortified and, like, defensible, that also means that it's way harder to just start a beacon and then run away as soon as someone comes.
Yeah,
so
possibly.
I feel like it's interesting changes both for people rezzing on beacons and also for the people approaching beacons that are being rezzed on. I think that this could potentially be good for some characters as opposed to others as well. Like, more chokes is obviously good for the same characters we mentioned, but also Oath is really, really good on beacons already because he can just sit there with his shield up and full charge his hammer, and it's really hard to walk into him. So now in an enclosed area where Oath can literally just sit and hold a choke with a fully charged hammer that deals 800 damage, like, it's going to be really hard to get this guy off a res point.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we're just going to have to wait and see, but it's something that you really should be aware of and be prepared to adjust how you're playing around it, what powers you're taking, what characters you're even taking, because it's probably going to be pretty meaningful.
Yeah, absolutely. Forges are back, baby. I think this is the second time that they've been removed and re-added into the game since I started playtesting. They can't figure out what they want to do with forges. Do you think that these matter at all? Because when I read these patch notes, like, it's cool that forges are back. I liked forges when they were in the game, but they've had a different function every single time that they've come back. What do you think of this one?
Honestly, I kind of like this one better. The whole idea of upgrading your weapons for money seemed cool, but in practice, like, you not only had to be near the right forge, but you also had to have the right amount of gold. So it set up these two conditions that just seemed sort of like difficult to actually play for. Like, it wasn't always like I was playing to go to the forge to upgrade my weapons. It was more that, oh, I'm conveniently near a forge and I have the money, I might as well upgrade my weapons. But in this situation, it's something you might actually want to meaningfully play for, because you don't actually just have to go for a bonfire to repair your armor. You don't have to, like, if you're low on gold, you're going to the forge to repair your armor.
Especially if you have gold. I mean, if you have gold, repairing your full armor for free, that's like a lot. That means a lot.
High level armor, like, that's you're saving a lot of money there. So I think it has value. It really just comes down to depends on, like, where they are on the map, how accessible are they, features like that, on if they're actually meaningful, I think.
Speaking of gold armor, by the way, they're changing the way that gold armor and hot zones work. So before, there would be one hot zone on the map, right? It would usually be in one of the corners, and it would have all 4 armors in it. 2 of them would be in boxes, and 2 of them would be in the vault. Now, those are randomized, so occasionally all 4 tier or like max tier armors might be in the same hotspot, but it almost seems, I mean, just based on what I'm reading, it seems more likely that it'll be a split, either 2 and 2 or 1, 1, 1 and 1.
Yeah.
So that means that it's no longer, I know that you had talked in the past just within our team about hot drop being a really, really strong objective, because you just come out of there with 4 gold armors and it's really, really hard for anyone else to play the game into you unless they have, like, a level advantage.
Yeah.
So in the games where hot armor is split, I wonder how valuable dropping for, like, 2 legendary armors is going to be now. It's definitely going to change the value proposition.
Yeah, it's going to change it. I think it's less likely to be contested now. I think players are just going to sort of, like, if it's 2 and 2, I think there might be, like, instead of having, like, 3 or 4 teams falling there, you might just see 2 teams trying to contest for it. Because previously, like, even if one team sort of got the armor, there was always the armor in the vault. But now you don't really have that reliable armor in the vault.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more risky to actually contest, because there's a chance you might actually just get nothing, and that sucks. Like, you fell on the edge of the map, you're not near any other teams, and the other team took the armor and ran. Like, what do you do? You're just, like, on the back foot now.
And I hope to see less 5 teams drop into the hot drop zone level 1. 4 of them die, and the last team walks out being level 6 and with 4 legendary armors, right? Like, I think that it'll split that a lot more, and hopefully we should see less of those. According to Augur Light in the chat, by the way, B Chang said that 2 gold, 2 and 2 is the most common, and then 1, 1, 1, 1, and then 4, all in the same zone. Which, if that's true, then that's cool.
That's kind of what I'm thinking they're aiming for, is they're trying to make it less of this sort of, like, fall on the armor and then one team emerges and dominates the lobby, and more sort of a nice to have, but not something that is going to win you the lobby.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It also forces more critical decision making based on, like, varying factors, right? Which I always like. I'm a big stickler for, like, I don't want to be able to do the same exact thing every game and achieve a win. So I advocate for a bit of healthy randomness like this, where it's like, okay, I can't just play with my squad and plan to drop on hot drop, get 4 gold armors every single game and play the same way every game. I actually have to adapt my game plan depending on whether it's 1, 1, 1, 1, 2 and 2, or all 4 in the same spot.
Yep.
Which I'm a fan of. All right, moving on to audio distances. So we raised the attenuation distance of several gameplay important audio effects like glider, footsteps, chests opening, grind rails, nuke, and walking on glass. What do we think of this?
It's cool. It's cool. I think it'll be something that's meaningful to gameplay. It's hard to say, you know, like how meaningful when they don't include distances. It looks like it's just outside of your screen, just from the fireside chat, but I don't know if they were like at max range there. They were just demonstrating a little bit. So I think this one is really gameplay dependent, but it should allow players to scout more effectively outside of their vision cone, which is cool.
Yeah, I will be continuing to play with music on, and you cannot tell me not to. No matter how valuable they make noises, it's like I'm the dude who plays like Counter-Strike and Valorant with my music on louder than my game. Like, that's just me. I die to someone behind me, and everyone in team chat types like no headphones. So I will continue to be that guy in SUPERVIVE, and I will not feel bad about it.
Someone disable his Spotify.
I'll just use YouTube. You can't stop me, Luke. You can't stop me. All right, we got some VFX art changes, or updates, I guess I should say. This is cool. I'm excited to see what Void and Celeste look like with some new VFX.
Nothing really. It's cool. It's a good change. I like it.
Similar to the UI changes, it's kind of hard to comment on anything art related until you see the art. So we'll see what we think of that after actually experiencing it. We got more Stormshifts. 2 new Stormshifts. Woo! We got berry season and home bases.
Yeah. I think that this is actually gonna start. What we're gonna see here is the SUPERVIVE's first tournament, which is kind of cool, kind of exciting. And I think a big piece of that is actually going to be Stormshifts. I think teams, if they haven't already, they're likely to start coming up with specific game plans associated with these Stormshifts and how they play out, what they prioritize, especially with the introduction of, we'll get to it down the line, but those mythic weapons and how they're distributed. Because I think some of these Stormshifts, inform, the power choices you want. They inform the way that you want to play out the mid game, and they inform how you prioritize your final circle placement. And I think when players start thinking about these, like sort of like those the 3 choices at the start of like a TFT game, it'll actually make for more interesting games. So I think they're cool.
Yeah, and I mean, just looking at the official Stormshift list for this playtest, which I assume is accompanied by the 2 that are above it, obviously. I feel like a lot of these meaningfully change the way the game is played, which is cool. Like, I love Stormshifts. I think they're really good. I just talked about how I think a little bit of randomness to, change gameplay and make players actually make critical decisions based on how a game is unique when compared to other changes is a really good thing. And I think Stormshifts do a really good job of addressing that. I'm a little bit sad to see that Glider Engines is still in the game because I think it encourages a lot of, really bad gameplay.
What do you think about bombing runs, Steve?
And bombing runs is I'm sad to see it in the game, but it's not because I think it's bad for the game. It's just because I hate it. I can acknowledge that there's a little bit of fun in bombing runs. I just absolutely hate it because it screws me over and never seems to screw the enemies over.
That's confirmation bias right there.
Yeah, I bet it is. All right. We got the real meat and potatoes. I think I said the exact same thing last time, but it's true. It's what everyone cares the most about. If you just use the YouTube markers to skip ahead to Hunter changes, welcome. You should go back and watch the rest of the good discussion. But
if they use the YouTube markers to skip, you ain't convincing them. Let it go.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk about the Hunters. So the TLDR is that Ghost, Kingpin, Oath, Void, and Zeph have been buffed. Brawl, Aluna, and Shiv have been nerfed, and Jewel and Myth have been adjusted. So a little bit of buffs, a little bit of nerfs.
Let's keep adjusted in heavy quotation marks there. I really think one of these could go to one of those categories before, and the other could go to the other one.
Yeah. I mean, adjusted is just a blanket term to mean, there are 7 nerfs in this character's patch notes and then 1 buff, so it's adjusted instead of just hard nerfed.
Yeah, it's really a communication tactic here, and it's doing a lot of heavy lifting.
All right.
The big one, though, is those self-slow changes, because that's a huge change.
Yeah, do you want to explain what self-slows actually are for people who might not fully understand them?
So self-slows are when you are performing an offensive action, and that offensive action slows your character down. This makes it easier for an opponent to return fire because you're a little bit weaker then, and it's easier to hit you. It makes your offensive action weaker and open to counterattack. So the fact that these characters were not weaker when they were attacking was kind of a problem. So now it's probably going to feel worse for the players who were playing them, but better for people who were trying to duel these characters in fights, because now it's going to be easier for you to hit them when they're actually firing.
Luna can no longer space glide on me with 0 self-slow happening. That makes me a little bit happy.
What a change.
Alright. Brawl. The man of the patch, last patch, literally had to receive mid-patch nerfs because of how oppressive he was, and was still oppressive after those mid-patch nerfs. Yeah. What are we looking at for Brawl?
Okay, so the big thing that sticks out to me here is that his whole shtick, the whole thing he wants to do, is relatively unchanged. The Brawl players still going to have the same exact game plan. They've just adjusted the tools with how they do it. So before, there was a world where you could actually shift mid-air RMB, which would be the stun circle on someone. However, because you really only have 2 dashes now, you're not going to be able to do that reliably and still win fights. But they moved the power into tether. So that's really going to be how Brawl players are going to want to generate that momentum to fly in and use the mid-air RMB to actually get that stun off. And it's, I think it's at the front of the patch, like the first day, this character is going to be ass. No one is going to be good at this character because that fundamental piece of his kit has changed drastically, and players are going to have to learn how to use it.
Yeah.
So I think the first day, second day even, and probably maybe even the third day, this character is not going to be doing the same things. But I think maybe next, test, when we get down to the end of August and into September, then this character is probably going to be doing the same exact things that they were doing last test.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I love a lot of these changes, especially the ones around RMB. Spin and charge dash no longer have incorporeal. I know a lot of people were complaining about the fact that he had iframes where it didn't really make sense to have iframes. And while his ultimate is already a full-on invulnerability, charge dash is reduced in speed and distance, which makes it harder for him to have like 17 really, really strong dashes to either run away or chase you down. And his straight to death box mechanic, while I much would have preferred for it to just be straight up removed because it's not fun at all, now only happens when Brawl is empowered, which I think is like a very positive change. I think that's moving in the right direction for sure.
I will say there's one pretty large buff in here to Brawl, which is he has built-in breaks when he has momentum. Kind of cool. Like the tether, the final patch note where it says attacking with your abilities will cause you to cancel the tether and slow down, so that he can use his LMB to break his momentum. I'm unsure if that's going to work if he's not attached to the tether, but if it does, that's kind of a cool mechanic, and it'll be up to players to see how they can actually use that to mind game opponents, but it could be interesting.
Yeah. I also love that his left shift now has to be level 3 to have 3 charges. I think that change is actually going to feel horrible for Brawl players, but good for everyone else. Because, if you really think about it, the quickest that you could possibly get to 3 charges is like level 6, feasibly. And what Brawl players are actually foregoing any more points in RMB aside from just 1 to put 3 points straight into left shift? I don't know. I don't know if that's something that they're going to be doing. But it definitely makes it a lot easier.
I still think he can 1v1 any other character and come out on top with a few mistakes. So I think the pain points that people were having with Brawl, the frustration, is still going to be there, but it's not going to be on the first day. It's not going to be on the second day of the playtest. It might show up on the third day, but I'm really thinking it'll happen in September.
I think definitely way less oppressive, which I'm happy to see. Because, I mean, this character needed changes, for sure. And I think that a lot of these changes are moving in the right direction by giving him more skill expression and taking away some of the easy 100 to 0 stuff that he was doing before. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what Brawl players cook up and how it feels to play into him with some of these nerfs. Aluna also receiving just a small change, but just a straight up nerf. Her backpack passive now makes her get slowed by 20% while carrying any allied wisp in her backpack. This doesn't stack, so it's not like if she's rezzing 2 wisps, it's 40%, and 3 wisps is 60%. It's just a flat 20%, 1 to 3 wisps slow while she's carrying them.
It'll be interesting to see how this feels with her LMB changes. I don't think a lot of Alunas were really trying to like return fire as they ran away, but if they were, now they're going to slow themselves even further.
Yeah. I've been told that this existed in the past, like this slow while you're carrying someone, and Aluna players really didn't like it, so they took it out. But now it's back, so we'll have to see what Aluna players think of it again. But I as someone who plays into Aluna and is really frustrated when she swoops by and runs away at 1,000 miles per hour while resing a teammate, I like that there's a slight bit of counterplay added in.
Yeah, Steve, I don't think the Aluna players are going to like it too much.
They want to be fast. They want to just swoop by and run away at maximum capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Luke, we got some ghost buffs. He needed these, didn't he?
Yeah, he didn't need these. I really don't know why we're buffing this character. Ghost, it was 2 patches ago before he buffed. The character was strong. Last patch, the character was very strong. He wasn't Brawl, but he was still really strong.
Yeah.
And these changes just... they make him so much more mobile. He has a lot more access to his micro dashes in combat, so it's going to make him a little bit stickier. Really, though, the thing is, if a Ghost player was being effective in their kills, you know, they were killing characters, that was resetting their dash anyways. So this is really only impactful for the Ghost players who are not being effective.
This guy's going to be fast as hell, man.
Yeah.
He's going to be zooming around the map. Also, what the fuck is yaw speed?
Yeah, that's the rotation. So now it's going to be easier for him to flick his laser.
I figured.
Cool, but I don't think he needed it. I think the laser was already in a really good spot for difficulty to hit. So we'll have to see how this feels, but I don't really think he needed it. And I'm kind of worried where he's going to end up.
I mean, Ghost is good, man. Like, I feel like he's pretty underutilized by newer players. And it takes like a strong fundamental player to actually fully take advantage of his kit. But when you see someone who does, it's like this character can hang with the rest of them for sure.
I think he's very much a must-pick character this patch, and I highly suspect you'll see a lot of him during show matches, during the tournament, and probably during ranks gameplay.
All right, well, hopefully I have one on my team. All right, it's my time. It's Jewel changes. For those of you who don't know, I'm essentially a Jewel one-trick right now. I played almost all Jewel, like 90% Jewel last patch. But before I talk about what I think of all of these massive list of Jewel changes, I want to let you say your piece on this.
Yeah, I just don't think this character should be played right now. When Jewel doesn't have an iframe on her shift, it's just not good. This character, the fact that it's a very telegraphed move, she has to dash straight at someone and it's not an iframe, makes it very easy for a player who thinks critically about the matchup to land projectiles, skill shots on a character that is dashing in a straight line at them. So if there's no iframe, I don't think this character should be fixed.
Interesting. Very interesting. I disagree. Now, losing the iframe is going to hurt a lot, probably. And I'm interested to see the degree to which it actually hurts and the degree to which I get killed mid-dash because of it. However, I like that you are still immune to CC, because to me, that was the most tilting part, is when it had neither, and I would literally just get like Kingpin Slam mid-dash and I wouldn't get to play the game. So I like that I'm still immune to CC. A lot of these other changes, I actually really like the direction that it's moving in. The Jewel chat has been very, very active of like Jewel players who recognize that she's probably a bit stronger than she should be. And like, how do we push her in a direction that addresses some of the pain points for people who hate playing into her, but maintains the stuff that Jewel players themselves really like. And I think that a lot of these changes are moving in the right direction on this. LMB orbs are gone, thank God. It was a source of RNG in her kit and made it so you would win fights that you had no reason to actually win because you got lucky on a 15% chance. So I love that that's gone. RMB now works the way that a lot of Jewel players have been wanting it to work for a while, which is that instead of it dealing maximum damage after charging it for, less than a second, now the charge time is actually a little bit longer and the damage that you deal scales based on how long you charge it, which makes a lot more sense visually, I think, to me. It also just deals a lot less damage, I'm realizing. I mean, the first time I read these patch notes, I actually didn't notice, but look at those number chunks on the damage reduction for her R&B. Like, that is significant.
It's not really an ability anymore.
Yeah, it's more of a setup ability. So this is good for me. It's bad for a lot of other jewels because a lot of other jewels were getting the majority of their damage from R&B. I've been playing to deal the majority of my damage with dashes, and I've been maxing the ability accordingly, and now I'm even more inclined to do so because I think R&B truly is just a setup ability for your shift. Jewel is going to be a land shift to win, miss shift to lose character. CDR now actually scales, which is cool because last patch it wasn't working. Some other stuff, I think her new R sounds fucking sick. I've been asking for something like this for a while. I was actually asking for something like this on her RMB, where like she would call down a lightning strike from the air and it would spread the stacks to nearby enemies. But I think this is a lot cooler of a way to do it. Basically, how her new R is going to work is that if you land on somebody who has 3 stacks with your R, it will apply that 4th stack and then immediately spread to all of their teammates in a radius around that target that you hit. And so if you land on someone with 4 stacks who is surrounded by all of their teammates, you now have 4 dash reset targets, which sounds amazing to me. I mean, if I land that even once, it's just going to be Clip City, and that's what I love about the character, is like those super high octane clip moments. So I think this new R sounds really, really satisfying, and I kind of hated the way her old R worked anyways. All right, there's my jewel spiel. You can talk again, Luke.
I got nothing.
You still think this character is going to be trash, don't you?
I just don't think there's a reason to pick it if that iframe isn't if that shift isn't an iframe.
Well, you're going to be playing with me, bucko, so you'll probably have a jewel on your team.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it lands on day 3. I think you might be done with it after that.
Yeah. We'll see. I can always retreat to my secondary character, who's next up on the chopping block, Kingpin. We got some Kingpin changes.
There's a lot of text in these Kingpin changes, and I think a lot of it, it's some cool buffs, it's some cool changes. I think the only thing that really matters in this text is the dash changes. Kingpin is going to be more mobile, which is going to feel really good for the player. It's going to cost less mana, and then cost a little bit more mana, depending on which dash you use. And I think that this is going to feel really good for the Kingpin player, because now you're in a punish window less frequently.
Yeah, I could see that. I think, like, it felt really bad playing with Kingpin Dash, because a lot of times every other character just had dashes that refresh cooldown a lot faster than you, so it was, like, impossible to actually keep up with other characters. And it felt like you really just had to pick your moments very carefully and play get in, get out. Which I think is fair, but also I think this gives him a little bit more flexibility. I also just wanted to real quick jump up. Augur mentioned in the chat, I totally missed the fact that this has a 0.15 second wind down. I missed what this change was actually supposed to do. This just gets rid of the RMB LMB animation cancel, which was Jewel players' way of getting 2 stacks every time they would RMB you. And it was fundamental to a lot of her combos. So this character might actually be, like, trash. But we'll see. We'll see. They took away a lot of shit.
The good news is that Kingpin is getting some slight buffs. He'll probably be fine. He'll be fine. Kingpin players, they're going to have fun. This is good. This character doesn't really exist outside of his dash, shift, or hook. So I'm glad that they're getting to play the game a little bit more and less time, watching a YouTube video.
Yeah. I got really nothing else to add on that. All right. I know you want to talk about Myth, so I'm going to just let you go off.
Okay. So Myth was adjusted. And what they mean by adjusted is that she was buffed. It's hard to say until you actually get your hands on this LMB what it's going to feel like. But a lot of the other changes are just good buffs. It's good stuff for the character. I think Myth players are probably going to miss out on their ult damage being an execute a little bit. But once they get used to not pressing the ult button and like the new timing on when to ult, I'm pretty sure a lot of these changes are straight buffs.
Yeah, I'm wondering how many Myths were actually using their ult when opponents were low anyways. I mean, I'm sure a lot of them were, but like just opening up with an ult and dealing tons of damage to start off the fight might be a super viable way to use her. I mean, given both of us thought Myth was very strong last patch as well. So net buffs for her is definitely a good look. I am interested to see how these new LMB changes will feel, though.
Yeah, I think that's the real kicker. Like, it could... I think it's leaning towards buff, but if those LMB changes feel terrible to play as, no one's going to play the character, even if they, give her 300 damage.
Yeah, because LMB, is the character. That's why you're playing Myth, usually. Everything else is more or less secondary.
Yep.
Got some oath changes.
Wait, before... Okay. I do want to add that this character is probably going to be a must pick. I think that you probably are going to need a Myth on your team.
Okay. So we got Myth Ghost. We're building the God Squad. Myth Ghost, definitely not Jewel, is Luke's God Squad so far.
Yeah.
Definitely not Jewel.
Oath changes. Take it away, Steve. Tell me about these oath changes.
Well, for players who play Oath like Flappy Penguin, that is to say, aggressive Oath who gets in your face and beats you up with his hammer, this doesn't really matter at all because you won't be building tank items. Or if you're building, one tank item, you won't feel nearly as much impact. But these toughness changes, basically making it so that tank items are more effective on him, are going to be a lot better for people who want to maybe play Oath as a more traditional tanky type pick and want to actually attempt to frontline for their team, which I think is cool. I think thematically it makes sense for him to have a lot higher toughness because he looks and plays a little bit like a tank.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of people will gravitate to tank items anyways, so making those more effective, it will definitely help beginners, I think, who are picking the character.
I think this is a massive buff for beginner players. I kind of suspect that beginner players are going to complain like heck about Oath this patch. Like, if you're a first-time player and you come in and this character's got 3k health and, beating your ass up with a hammer, I think players are going to be pretty frustrated by Oathbreaker, and I think he might be, jumping to the top of that complaint list, even though, the players that currently play Oath aren't really going to get anything from this other than maybe 150 health.
Yeah. Agree.
How it hits.
All right, moving on to Shiv. You can take it away with the LMB RMB changes. The only ones that I really care to talk about are the left shift ones.
All right, cool. LMB, there's a huge bug fix here where her Malice passive was applying twice, which is, if you look at her damage numbers, that's kind of scary. So I'm really curious how this character is going to feel with that bug fix. It seems very impactful. I don't really like the trick shot changes. I don't understand why it's called trick shot if you can't bounce it off walls. What are you doing with that name? Let's change it up. But overall, I think the big thing is, it's going to depend on, how much that LMB change actually makes her feel different, because this character was kind of trucking people last test. There were a lot of times where I would land a Ghost RMB and then get out LMB'd in that fight. Or it'd be very close. And I don't know how much of that was the Malice bug. So it'll be interesting to see how that actually lands, because that could be massive.
It could end up being a massive nerf. But it's nerfs across the board for her. I really like just the philosophy that I wanted to highlight behind the cartwheel changes, because cartwheel is an ability that resets when you land the shot, right? I think any ability that resets should have a high cooldown if you don't reset it. That's just my opinion on the game, right? If an ability has a way to reset it in your kit, you should get punished really hard for missing that way to reset it, because otherwise it just feels like it doesn't even matter if you're using the ability to its maximum capacity or not. So I think that Jewel Dash and maybe not Jewel Dash, I mean, she got hit with a lot of other shit this patch, but abilities like that and Brawl RMB and a bunch of other abilities that reset under multiple conditions should get hit with the same treatment of increasing the cooldown a little bit more. And of course the R changes matter. I'm not sure how much they matter because the number changes don't seem very big, but it was dealing too much damage, so any amount less of damage is cool by me.
Yeah. Again, I think it's that LMB, and it's really going to be up to how much damage is that actually reducing her. So we'll see.
Overall though, I like the characters that they decided to nerf. Brawl, Shiva, Luna. That feels like, those characters were deserving of a little bit of hate going their way.
And don't forget Jewel.
Yeah, and don't forget Jewel, of course. No, Jewel was adjusted.
Adjusted.
Jewel was adjusted.
Very
She
much
wasn't nerfed
adjusted.
according to the patch notes, therefore I will continue to believe that she was merely adjusted.
Oh, your delusions.
Void got more buffs, which is cool. Void has gotten probably like, I want to say 8 straight patches of buffs. I don't think this character has gotten a nerf in a long ass time. These buffs are, I think, largely inconsequential. Like, they kind of matter, but not that much.
Yeah, I think the bigger change for Void is the choke points on the map, and they'll really be big. If Void gets really oppressive this test, it's not going to be because his L shift timing was changed or his ult got a new feature where it immediately slows someone. It's going to be because of those changes to the map.
Yeah. He's the beneficiary of a lot of other, like, indirect changes. These changes don't matter all that much, basically.
Yeah. They're going to be nice for the Void players. Like, I think Void players are going to like these changes, and they're going to mean a lot to the Void players. But, like, for someone who wants to come into the test and is like, I want to pick up the strong characters, they're not going to Void. They're going to Ghost.
We making it out of C tier with this one. Let's go. We making it into the B tier finally, Void players.
Nah,
I will
it's not
still
happening.
refuse to touch this character with all likelihood.
Yeah.
All right, and then finally, the final hunter that got changes is Zeph. So there's similar to the Kingpin changes, there's a lot of text here, but I think these changes mean a lot more than the Kingpin changes, despite, you know, the similarity in amount of text. So do you want to maybe talk a little bit about some of these?
Yeah, sure. I think the one that really stands out to me is actually the base movement speed change. Like, this is good. I was looking at the SUPERVIVE wiki earlier just to make sure I have my numbers right, but this is gonna put him on the same move speed as like Firefox and Brawl. It's like the fast melee characters. This is a massive change for his move speed to be going that fast.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna make him so much better at kiting and dueling. I think it's honestly an insane change.
Because he also has bee-hopping and he also has his tornado, right?
Yes.
So it's gonna.
So he's mobile.
One of my main complaints about Zeph was that I felt like he was a little too easy to dive. Like, whenever I played into a Zeph, I was never too worried because I felt like it was really easy to kill him. But I think that the combination of this change and the bee-hopping that he got last patch makes him really, really hard to catch. I think it's super nice that he gets his mana on hit back on his LMB. I think that's going to help a lot because, again, like, the main thing that gates Zeph is that he's too easy to dive and that he has mana issues. So I think he's getting multiple changes in this patch that address those two main issues, and he definitely is getting some compensation nerfs elsewhere in his kit, but I think it's in the areas that don't make Zeph, if that makes sense.
Sort of.
Like, a lot of the nerfs are targeted as Vacuum Grenade, which was really strong. But
well, okay, but they also buffed it.
That's true. The cooldown is also reduced, and the stun duration is also increased. So maybe it's not even a nerf. Wasn't he categorized as net nerfs?
Buffs.
No, net buffs. Okay, net buffs. I misread. Yeah, this does seem like a whole suite of buffs, actually.
Yeah. I mean,
this character might be OP.
The damage is down, but I think that stun makes up for it. I don't know what Zeph players like to level 3, but with a 1.2 second stun and 9 second cooldown, it's kind of attractive.
It could swing fights. I think Zeph is going to be really strong. My big takeaway is, like, there's going to be a lot of protector shakeup, I think, this patch. Because in the previous patch, it felt like all the protectors were more or less on the same exact level as each other. And it's kind of like pick your poison. If you want an Aluna on your team, you can do that. If you want an Oath on your team, you can do that. If you want a Zeph on your team, you can do that. It doesn't really matter who you choose. My initial gut read after looking at all these changes is that Zeph is going to pull away as the strongest protector, and the other two are going to lag a little bit behind.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that Aluna is still going to have her frustrating play pattern, but I think Zeph is probably going to be able to generate more value in skilled hands.
Yeah. So we can no longer say, Luke, that nobody is balancing the game, because this is a whole suite of hunter changes. It seems like they're starting to actively balance a lot more based on player feedback, and you know, regardless of how these changes land, if Jewel ends up being shit and other characters end up being OP, I'm glad that they're giving more attention intentionally to the balance of the game and responding to player feedback and stuff like that.
We'll have to see how it shakes up.
All right, powers. We love powers. Let's talk about them. We got some new powers.
Some cool powers.
Starting off with Purify, potentially one of the most broken powers in the game, just based on reading it. Talk to me about Purify, Luke.
I think this power is something that if you see it on the ground, you want it for your team. You are going to give this to a single player on your team. You know, you're gonna have to pick one, but it's such a incredibly strong power. There's so many combinations in SUPERVIVE that start with a stun into one-shot combo. It changes the way matchups play dramatically. It's an insane power to take, and I think that if you see this, you should pick it up and start playing around with it, because there's a lot of potential power you can add to your kit with good Purify timing.
I want 2 Purifies on my team and to find a replicator, and for every player on my team to have Purify, so we don't just instant lose fights off of pick abilities.
You know,
I think that would be good,
doesn't it?
I genuinely think it would be good. I think this power sounds really broken. I mean, it's just cleansed from League, but like that matters a lot more in this game, I think.
Yeah.
Just because of the way that CC, and it's the time to kill, right? Because the time to kill is so much faster in SUPERVIVE than in a lot of other games, it means that getting hit with one CC ability often means death.
Well, okay, I mean, it's actually very comparable to League of Legends. Like, if you look at games where AD carries of professional play take cleanse,
yeah,
like that cleanse timer, that is so important for teams to be tracking, because it literally means if that CC AD carry is going to die, or that AD carry is going to potentially kill their entire team because they overcommitted on a CC that didn't work. Like, this is an insane power, and you should be picking it up every time you see it.
Absolutely. All right, Luke, I'm going to demand that you read your notes for the Touch of Life, Touch of Mana, and Touch of Speed out loud exactly as you wrote them.
Okay.
I can't believe you wrote this on our document.
I started... Okay, I'll just read. Touch powers all seem good. Do they stack? Can you replicate them and just have your allies all touch each other? And I think that is a very, meaningfully important question that as soon as the practice tool is available, I'm going to go test to see if I can A, clone touch powers, and then B, if all of my allies can then just touch each other.
I'm staying as far away from you this patch as possible.
I mean, if we can, all have Touch of Life and it stacks where we can each touch each other with our 15%, that's crazy. That's kind of crazy if it works like that. I don't know if it works like that. That's something that I need to figure out in the practice tool. But if it does, that's pretty strong.
Yeah, I'm wondering if, looking at the touch powers, like, I think they're all cool. I mean, they all clearly serve a purpose, and they're pretty simple powers. I think it's good to have simple powers in the game that new players can use pretty intuitively. I'm wondering if Charge has been removed, because Touch of Speed is very similar to Charge, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't clear hazard. It doesn't clear slows. And
yeah, that's true. So they'll probably still be different and distinct. I'm wondering if these are also touch powers like green powers, probably, rather than white powers, I would think, because they seem pretty strong. Maybe even blue powers.
Maybe, well, imagine your team has 4 touch of speeds, and you all get 400 move speed when you touch.
That does sound kind of ridiculous, actually. That sounds like, it's like, forgive us for the continued League references, but like when Karma hits RE and then Shirelia's your entire team, and you're just running it at Mach 10, like, that sounds amazing.
It sounds ridiculous.
Catch our team running 4 Touch of Speeds and 4 Purifies. Fuck those red powers. We don't need them.
Yeah, I don't know if it works like that, but that is I'm going to go into practice tool and test it, and I encourage everyone else to, because if it does, there's some cool strategies you could make with these. Like, you could have a really degenerate comp that just heals, upwards of 60% of max health whenever they all touch. Kind of cool.
All right, Crisis Dash. Me and you disagree pretty heavily on this power, actually, so I'll start. Resets your movement ability when you go below 50% HP. Will not go on cooldown until you take damage while your dash is on cooldown. I don't think this power is good unless I'm misreading it, because I dislike inherently any power that requires me to take damage to be useful, right? Because if I'm playing well on the characters that I play, on a lot of the characters that I play, I just don't think I should ever be proccing this, because I don't want to drop below 50% HP, or else I'm in the danger zone. Why do you think this is so good?
I think this is really good because one of the key formats and tenets of SUPERVIVE gameplay is really playing around these sort of dash punish windows where if, I playing footsies with my LBs and I take too much damage and I dash out, suddenly I'm in a lot of danger because the enemy team can collapse on me and kill me without my dash. But because I have Crisis Dash, it makes that sort of the opportunity for me to make that a bait where I'm just saying, oh, look at me, I'm just a 51% health character, don't come kill me, I've just dashed. And then they come in, I eat a little bit of damage and I dash away, and suddenly they've used potentially their dashes to come punish mine, but it puts them in a weaker spot because now I've out of the danger zone. It's no longer a punish window because I've moved, and they're now in a punish window. So I think it really adjusts the way these matchups play out and allows characters to think about their ability flow charts very differently. And this could mean you have these additional defensive actions, but it also gives you an additional offensive action, because if you dash in to force someone's dash and you have Crisis Dash and you're trading with them and they dash out of an ability but deal damage to you to bring you under 50%, you now have access to another dash, which could be the difference between dodging one of their abilities and killing them.
Interesting. Do you think it'll be a lot better on melee characters then? Like you dash in, burn someone's dash, and you'll take damage because you're melee, like inherently, and then maybe you use Crisis Dash to get in range. We'll have to see. I'm iffy on it. I probably won't be taking it a whole lot. I'll let you do that and tell me whether or not it's broken.
Yeah, I think it depends on, like, when it says reset your movement ability, some characters, mostly melee characters, actually all melee characters now have 2 dashes. So if it resets both charges, I think it's must take on melee. But if it only resets one, I think you could make the argument that there might be some better powers.
Right. All right, Tree Suit is hilarious. There's not much to say about it. Just read the tooltip. This is really funny. It'll be especially funny to play with Bishop and have her launch you.
It's pretty cool.
Or play with, Tree Suit plus Iron Fist on your team and then have someone punch you at the enemies. Imagine, like, we're on the flank. I'm playing Void. I go Tree Suit. You Iron Fist me in, and then I hit a maximum ultimate or something like that. Like, this is just pure meme, pure clip potential, and I love it.
I'm really disappointed they removed Tree Drone with the addition of this, because I think that they had a lot of synergy.
Yeah, that's true. You could have gotten basically like a mini ward.
That you explode and then. But yeah, I think it's a great meme.
Quality meme. We got some power balance changes. I think most of these are fairly inconsequential. You can talk about Creep Cloner.
I think Creep Cloner is still extremely good. It offers your team the ability to have a jump pad or the ability to save your food on demand every 30 seconds. Quite powerful to have a jump pad every 30 seconds. Yeah, I think Creep Cloner is still real good.
Yeah, Creep Cloner's like a top tier power, especially considering the rarity that it is, right? Because it's only like a green power or something.
Yeah.
But for those of you who don't know, if you get either the jellyfishes that are usually in the abyss, or you get the healer creeps that are in most every camp, both of those are really, really strong on Creep Cloner and serve the purpose that Luke was talking about either being a jump pad with a jellyfish or being a, heal whenever you want it from the healer creep. So Creep Cloner's still very good despite that cooldown nerf. Anti-mobility field duration is reduced from 25 to 20 seconds. I still think this power is like broken beyond belief. Just having a zone, I think it would be even more broken if you could set it up more consistently how you wanted to, but it's a little bit janky in how you actually deploy it. But in like the show matches that we saw happening last patch, there were teams who had 2 to 3 of these on their team and just used it to control space for free. And 20 seconds is still a long ass time to not be able to dash through an area.
I'm just really not convinced that adjusting the cooldowns of powers affects the powers. Like, this is confusing to say because I'm saying power of the thing of a power, but I don't think it affects the impact of a power just with the cooldown, because oftentimes you aren't using these off cooldown. I'm not going to use my Creep Cloner off cooldown. I'm going to use it when I need it.
Yeah.
It's just like if the cooldown were made to like 3 minutes, that's a meaningful change. But like 10-second, 15-second cooldown change, that's not very meaningful. I don't.
It's not like you're winning a fight because your Creep Cloner came up 10 seconds faster mid-fight, right? Like
I
the
don't think
usage
so.
is mostly happening out of fight or before or after a fight, where you don't really have to worry about the cooldown. The same can kind of be said for like the two-way teleporter changes and stuff like that. Like having an extra 20 seconds on this ability will of course make it inherently worse, but it's not really going to change the functionality all too much.
Yeah, that's where I'm sitting. That's where I stand. The one that was nerfed the heck was Stasis.
Stasis nerf. Woo! It's Zhonya's now. League players rejoice. It's literally just Zhonya's Hourglass.
Yeah, but it's bad. It's like, I feel like taking Zhonya's in SUPERVIVE is just like building Zhonya's into Caitlyn. You're just trolling.
Yeah, you're going to get a Kingpin Slam or a Jewel E prepped immediately on where you're coming out of it. And it might take people some time to get used to timing it perfectly in the way that you would time Zhonya's in League. But once people get that timing down, this power is just going to make you a sitting duck.
Yeah.
And unless your teammates come in to save you and you're like diving or something, I don't really see as much of a use for this power when compared to a lot of the other good powers in the game.
Yeah. I just would never pick this up.
Yeah, I mean, why would you take Stasis when you can take Rewind, right? It's just like Poverty Rewind now, and they're both the same type of rarity, so...
Yep, and Rewind heals you through anti-heal, so...
Yes, that as well. Sandwall is a little bit worse. You used to be able to use it as just like a reaction block tool, where you would see an ability that you want to block come out, and you would just throw Sandwall out, and it would immediately block. Now with this 0.4 second warm up and the slow attached to it, I'm not sure if this means that getting hit by Sandwall will slow you, or if it means a self slow on using it.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I
was confused on.
I couldn't figure out what that means, but either way, it's worse.
Yeah.
And then we've got a fair amount of remove powers that I will be saluting on camera. Except you, Adrenaline Rush. Fuck you, Adrenaline Rush. That power is complete ass. It was extremely broken in its old version and extremely horrible in its new version, so I'm glad that it's removed. But the rest of them, it's very sad. Burning Core was kind of cool. It had different iterations. Mana Tap Grenade was kind of cool. Thorn Armor, I'm actually really surprised got removed, because I think that power was pretty cool and was good on some characters. Tree Drone is really sad. Tree Drone was the homie. And then Living Armor was also one that I was surprised to see go. But I guess because Forges exist now, maybe, is why they're deciding to remove it? Who knows?
No, it was just budget Armor Soul. It just like, it was one of those things that you picked up when you saw it, and you didn't really do anything with it, and it just sort of added value that you didn't really have to actively think about. So I really understand why they're removing that one.
Yeah, that's true. And it often just felt like a placeholder until you could find something better.
Yeah,
so say goodbye to all those powers. We will mourn for Tree Drone and for Thorn Armor the most, in my opinion. I think those are the two really coolest powers that are gone.
I hope Tree Drone comes back. I think there's a lot of cool stuff you could do with that.
All right, Luke, we're closing in on the end. We're more than an hour deep at this point. So we got some new exotic equipment. You want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah. This new exotic equipment is actually, I think, really meaningful to how teams are going to approach the mid game. I was looking at the Fireside chat, and it really looked from what SafeBlock was talking about. It looked like these were dropping from Night 1 bosses. I couldn't tell, but that's what it looked like. And I think that's really interesting because some of these upgrades are really massive power spikes on Night 1, if that's the case.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got Skeleton Keyblade, Emergency Boots, Multi-Tool, UAV Helm, and Golden Gauntlets. You can read what all of them do here. We're not going to read them out loud and reiterate it, but which ones do you think are the strongest out of this list?
Okay, out of this list, the three that I would put at the strongest are Multi-Tool, UAV Helmet, and Golden Gauntlets. Not necessarily, and then Skeleton Keyblade's a last finisher just because of what item it is, but I think Multi-Tool, like if it's the campfire, the base camp bonfire, like that is suddenly just like a ridiculously strong thing to have in your back pocket. So, you're picking up your bonfire, you are doing it for free. You're repairing ruined beacons. Like if you are in that base camp Stormshift, that's so powerful. UAV Helmet, if you're in the UAV Stormshift, suddenly you have a lot more information than other teams do, and you're in a much better spot to play aggressive. Golden Gauntlets, if you're in the luxury goods Stormshift, that's a really good thing to have, because now you're not only going to shops, buying these super cool items, you get an additional one too.
I do also just want to mention that outside of like the cool effects that everyone's going to gravitate to, like these are tier 5 level items in terms of stats, which is like almost it's more boring, but like that's really fucking strong. If these are spawning as early as we think they are at night 1, it is really strong to have like a max tier item in terms of stats coming out of the first night. Like multi-tool, 160 AP plus every secondary stat. Are we for real?
Yeah, I think that honestly might be better than their actual
than their actual effects.
You might just want to go for some of these because, if Flappy wants this Banner Blade, I guarantee you are going to the Golden Gauntlets.
Yeah. And I like to see more objectives, right? More stuff to contest on the map.
Yeah.
The one thing that I'm curious about is like emergency boots. Touching a hazard will instantly spawn a short duration emergency platform at your feet. Does the abyss count as a hazard? Will this make me never need to glide?
No, I don't think so.
That would be way too broken, right? Like surely that's not how it works.
Yeah, but like, okay, so like what if you see that the final, you see like the final circle reveal, final destination, Stormshift, and you see it's on a area heavy in hazards?
Yeah,
like, you just
like
go
the ice area.
Yeah, you just go pick up those emergency boots. Do it.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it twice and I'll say it a third time because third time's a charm. I love stuff that makes you make decisions in game because of a unique game state, right? Stuff that, because I think that's what lets the best players show that they're the best is by making decisions that no other player will come to based on a wide range of knowledge that only they could come up with. And that kind of creativity based on the game state, I really love to see. And I think this exotic equipment pushes towards that direction. I'm actually kind of worried about this just being the only objective that matters and being really broken because of them being tier 5.
Yeah, that's my takeaway. If these are distributed on the first night, I think this is the most important thing to be playing for currently. Dependent on game state, dependent on Stormshifts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But still, most likely, this is going to give you the most reliable power over like a soul right now, possibly.
And you can still contest souls with these, right? If I grab one of these and then contest a soul at the start of day 2, like, that's sounding like a strong game plan to me.
Yeah.
All right, Luke.
We'll have to see how it shakes out.
Take it away.
Right, arena. All right, okay. For all of you coming just to the arena, welcome. You're awesome. You're beautiful. I know you clicked on arena right in that YouTube timestamp, and I'm happy that you're here. I do have bad news for you in the sense that most of these arena changes are a net negative overall for arena strategy. But that being said, I'm still really happy that the devs are looking at arena and trying to add it again.
They know it exists.
They found it. I think it was, I think what happened was one of the devs walked into the coffee room and saw that there was like an arena, like little notebook, and was like, "Ooh, I remember that," and then got inspired, and I like that. The changes that they've made are sort of negative, and I'm going to explain why here, which is that now there was already a large priority on playing for Bonfire at the start of the fight. The actual probably best way to play out Arena is to gain control of the Bonfire and then do nothing until the end of the game. If that's get a single pick and force them back off to res, you just never chase. You just play for the Bonfire because that's what wins you games. It's boring. I don't do it. I'm not telling you to do it. But now it's even more important that you contest that Bonfire and gain control of it, because you're going to be getting a power for it. You're going to be getting green armor for capturing the Bonfire. You're going to be cooking your food, and people that respawn will not have armor. So you are in such a commanding position once you gain control of the Bonfire that that's really all you should be doing right now. Don't chase people down. Don't go for like cool clips. Get control of the Bonfire, hold the Bonfire, win the game.
Yeah. Green armor really matters. Like green armor for capping the Bonfire is super nice. I really like that Bonfires are like strong, because my biggest pet peeve in Arena is when I would go and contest the Bonfire and the enemy team wouldn't feel enough incentive to contest me on that, so they would just start running. But like now, if you run from the Bonfire, you're just going to lose the round, right? Like I'm going to get green armor and cook food, and you won't be able to play the game if I have half a brain.
Yeah,
I like that it's a real objective. It's a real objective.
Yeah. The thing is, though, it was a real objective before. It's just boring to play for it, and it's going to be boring to play for now, so people won't do it. But if you saw, the best, like, let's say you took 8 Arena players that really wanted to win the game, that's how they do it. And the other thing in here that I'm gonna give a sick tip to the groups here that are listening, in chat, that are listening to this on YouTube. If you get an evil power and your team is starting to lose a fight, you book that evil power to the edge of the map as far away from any enemy opponents that you can see, and you jump off the map to end the round. You do not want your opponents getting a red power that you can deny by jumping off the map. And you're not going to win a retake. You're not going to, if you respawn your team, you're going to be fighting with no armor into green armor, full food, and bonfire control. Like, you're not going to win. So just go get rid of the power.
I really hope the devs listen to this and hotfix that before it goes live, because it sounds so lame. But
that's what you have to do.
Lame.
Like, that's the best way to play. The best way to play is to not let the power get into the control of your opponents. Mm-hmm. And because of the way, when you die, your opponents, you go into slow-mo. So your team, they're not going to be able to get to you to pick up the power. So if you jump off the map, that's your best move, because you're not going to be able to retake. It's putting your power at risk, and it's giving your opponents more power for the next fight. And you don't want that. You just jump off the map.
Yeah. You heard it here first. Pro arena strats from Luke, the arena lord, the one who had Gunner having like a 70% win rate in arena or something like that.
It's 90.
90?
He's actually higher. Flappy's higher than me. He's got a 95 win rate.
That's disgusting. I just wanted to say, as like I dip my toe in arena, right? Like, I have a lot more respect for arena now than I used to, and I think it's fun. But as like a non-arena only player, I really like that powers are getting implemented into arena, even though I think that true arena players will hate it. Because I think that a lot of the way that hunter balance works in this game is around powers, right? Like, I think a lot of hunters thrive or have counterplay built into the game based on the existence of powers. And so I think fundamentally combat in arena is always going to feel a little bit flawed until powers are better integrated into the game mode.
Yeah.
I just want to go out and pitch my idea for any devs who might be listening, or anyone who agrees with this idea and wants to make a feedback post saying that it's a great idea and that Stevenator is handsome and a genius. I think that they should lean into like a Counter-Strike Valorant style econ system in arena, where you are able to buy powers of different rarities with some sort of currency that carries over from round to round. And so if I want to spend money on an air blast to counter the enemy brawl, if I'm getting dove too hard, I can do that. But it will cost me more money if I want to buy a Be Kind Rewind, and I likely won't be able to afford any powers the round after and stuff like that. I think that it could be really fun and really dynamic if there was some sort of currency system and some sort of economy system that involved powers. I don't actually know how to make it work because I'm not a game designer, but that's my idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to concur. And like, I don't want the devs feel like I'm coming down hard on the depth they're adding and being very negative about it, because powers are the key to adding depth in SUPERVIVE. This is just not the way to go about doing it, because it leads to the best decision being to throw yourself off the map the second you start losing.
Yeah, the intention is correct, but maybe moving a little bit in the wrong direction, and hopefully they can course correct and, keep moving forward with the idea of introducing powers into arena, but go about it in a slightly different way that doesn't reward running off the map and killing yourself.
Yeah, in-game.
In-game. And last but not least, Arena Hunter's Journey experience increased 50% for rounds won, 35% for rounds lost.
Yeah.
Massive.
The arena players are going to be very excited about that change. I guarantee it.
Can spend the whole patch playing arena last patch and not be max level. Or something like that. Something ridiculous. It's nice to see arena.
Level 15.
It's nice to see the arena only players getting some love, whether that love is in the right direction or not. I think it was very refreshing to scroll down to the bottom of these patch notes and see arena specific changes. It really shows that I think a lot of arena players had the fear that this mode was just going to get left in the background and just slowly decay until it was nothing. And while I'm not convinced that these changes will make more players play arena, which is one of the current problems with the queue, I think it's cool that there are changes being directed specifically at arena and that they haven't just completely thrown it to the side in favor of BR.
Yeah, let's see how it shakes out. But I'm, again, very positive that they're adjusting it, they're looking at it, and they got the right goal, which is to add depth.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are well over an hour at this point. But I mean, just look, as I'm gonna scroll back up, look at how big of a patch this is. It's amazing to me that they got this much work done between last month's patch. And keep in mind, last month's patch was a 7-day playtest or an 8-day playtest or something. So, like, they cut into a significant amount of their time in that playtest in this month, and they still got all of this done. Like, they're definitely slamming on the gas and getting ready for hopping into open beta. Of course, some other just like miscellaneous things to mention. If you are not in yet and you want to play the game, all referrals are guaranteed to get in. So I'll leave my personal referral link in the description of this video and in the comments. So if you're someone who's watching this video and you just comprehended an hour of patch notes for a game that you haven't even gotten to play yet, you can use that referral link and you're guaranteed to get in. All referrals are guaranteed to get in. I believe through the duration of the playtest, they'll probably do multiple runs, or if not, throughout the duration on the first day. So get those referrals in and get playing, and yeah, just awesome to see this many changes. Any other thoughts you want to leave us with before we head out, Luke?
Yeah. Pick Ghost, pick Myth, go play with some powers, and pick up Purify. You're going to have a great playtest.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in to Vive Check, your favorite and only patch notes rundown dedicated show/podcast if you're just listening to this instead of watching the video. Of course, if you look up Vive Check, you'll see that there's another podcast by the same name about SUPERVIVE. You should go not flame them because they're pretty cool guys, but give it a watch. Let them know that we had the name first and that they should stop stealing our name. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like, subscribe as per usual, and we'll be back next month with some more Vive Check, and enjoy the playtest, everyone.
See y'all in the comments.